Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar. My name is Ahmed Badruddin. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Citylitics, and I'm very happy to do a session with you on pre-positioning for future projects. All right, we'll get a few housekeeping items before we begin. If you have any questions, you're welcome to post them on the chat, and I'll take a look. We will have a recording available for you. Some of the items I'm looking to cover today are how to pinpoint opportunities 1 to 5 years before RFP, different ways to engage with potential clients early in the process to drive and influence upcoming projects and RFPs, how to use intelligence in order to drive action plans, pre-qualification, call planning, proposal development, and a prioritization framework for seller doers, because it is always a challenge how to manage the time between delivery, between BD, between RFP responses and proactive work. And so some things that we will cover today. Just confirming my screen is okay. Yeah. And a little bit more background. Myself started the company just over 10 years ago. The whole goal was how to leverage all the data that exists that cities and utilities publish and make it useful to our customer base to help them identify early stages of an opportunity. And over the years, I've worked with and seen hundreds of different customers and that have used and benefit from the data. And I'm hoping today to share some aggregate learnings that I've noticed over the years. A little bit of background for some of you that might not be familiar with us. We are a data AI company. We focus on predictive intelligence on future infrastructure projects. We aim to give our customers a data-driven sales advantage. We help them uncover opportunities early. We help them get intelligence that helps them prioritize their BD and sales efforts. We provide the intelligence that helps them deepen their relationships within their customers and prospects. We help them execute on strategic marketing campaigns. As a company, we have offices in Toronto, Austin, Texas, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are over 70 people in the company, and we serve manufacturers, suppliers, engineering, construction, and consulting companies over a variety of infrastructure sectors, we started with water, wastewater, stormwater, industrial, roads, bridges, transit, broadband, power, and there's a few more verticals that we're looking to expand to in the coming years. Now, first off, why pre-position? What's the value of being engaged early in the process with the city? And so if you just think about a few different factors and the differences between being pre-positioned or being late to an RFP. By pre-position, I mean, where you've been able to establish and position for the opportunity long before the RFP. And late to RFP, what I mean is when you're just hearing about the RFP and you have a few days to scramble, right? So when you think about a relationship standpoint with a client, if you've been able to pre-position, you're known, you're trusted, versus if you're just hearing about the opportunity at the RFP stage, you're not known or unknown to the city. Project influence, right? The more lead time you have before the RFP, the more ability you have to shape the scope, the budget, the delivery model. And then if you're just hearing about the opportunity RFP stage, you have to accept these predefined scopes and specs and projects. Proposal quality as well, right? So the more time you have, the more you can really align that proposal towards the customer's needs. And the less time there's available, then the more generic or reactive the proposal is. And you think about a win rate, so a lot of our customers will tell me that if they're hearing about it at the RFP stage, their chances of winning might be less than 3-4%. And if they're pre-positioned, they're involved, then it could be 25-30% plus win rate in terms of chances of winning that project. Pricing power as well, the more lead time you have to pre-position, the more you can compete on value differentiation and increase pricing. And then the less involved you are in that process, the more you'd have to discount. There's pressures on margins. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. And team preparation as well, or delivery preparation, right? So if you have months to prepare, be able to not only prepare for the RFP, but the work afterwards. And then if very little amount of time, it's scrambling together to get the documents and response in order to compete in that RFP. And then finally, from a customer perception, right? So if you're involved early, you're seen as a thought leader, you're seen as a proactive partner. And then if you're late to the RFP, you're seen as just another bidder. So just kind of calling a little bit more about in terms of the value of pre-positioning. And when we think about all the steps that go before a city goes to RFP, right? It's a multi-year journey. So, cities aren't just starting overnight creating an RFP, right? There's a whole process that they typically follow, right? So if you think about an aggregate, they have some kind of issue that they want to solve with infrastructure. Maybe their population is growing, maybe the infrastructure is hitting capacity, maybe there's a new industry coming in, maybe they've just got more pressure from their citizens around improving certain infrastructure. Maybe the infrastructure is aging, and so there's always some issue, something need that drives it. And then cities go into planning, trying to decide, okay, we've got all these infrastructure needs. What are we going to prioritize? What is a higher priority? What is not as much of a priority? And they start thinking about pre-design. Okay, how are we going to solve for this infrastructure need? And then they're looking for project funding. So they're going to bond markets or doing rate cases or increasing rates and finding ways to getting grants and finding ways to fund the upcoming project. And then the project goes to RFP, and then the contract gets awarded, purchase orders go get awarded. Now, if you think about the left half, this the focus really is influencing the RFP as much as you can, get it shaped and developed to the best that you can that puts your firm in a winning position. And there's different steps, as a BD person that you probably have to do with that step versus at the RFP step. So that's something we want to double click on and dive into a little bit more today. And, there are traditional methods, so relationships, travels, going to trade shows. These are vital and they remain vital because it is a relationship-driven industry. So I'd say these don't go away at all because, it is an industry where people want to work with people they trust and they've known for a long time. But even the best BD professionals can't be everywhere. But I like to say your data can be everywhere, and we'll speak a little bit more about that. So the point that I'll make here is that these traditional sources remain vital, but they're not sufficient to identify and track early stage opportunities. But where does some of this data exist? If you think about every municipality, every county, city, town, district, utility, MPO, RPO, ports, authorities, transit agencies, and DOTs, there is over 40,000 of these entities, and they are consistently generating data every day. And in that data, there are triggers and insights that could be pretty valuable to you as a BD professional or to your firm. And what types of documents are they generating? They're putting out agendas, meeting minutes, budgets, comprehensive plans, CIPs, MTPs, and work plans, and statewide transportation improvement plans, and water quality reports. So there's mountains and mountains of documents that they are publishing on a daily basis, within which there can be very valuable intelligence to harness and then use. And so what we focus at Citylitics is how do we take all this data that exists in a whole lot of different formats. It could be a web page, it could be an Excel file, it could be a PDF, it could be a PowerPoint. And how do we use a combination of AI? We know we use some of the latest cutting edge technologies, think of the same type of technology that powers ChatGPT and then those types of platforms. But we add that industry layer on top of that. So because we understand what does the infrastructure industry really care about? What kind of data matters more to them? And we also have a large team of data quality data analysts that are on a daily basis reviewing this data to make sure it is as relevant as it's actionable for our customers. And then what we output at the end of the day is what we would call predictive actionable sales intelligence in the form of personalized data feeds for each of our customers that get more and more personalized the more our customers use it. We have user feedback loops. So if you are a Citylitics customer, you probably are already experienced this, where we have a customer success team that's constantly engaging. We're reviewing your feedback data. We're trying to refine the feed more and more to save you more and more time. And then workflow integrations, integrating with CRM. The more easier we can make it for you all to save time and generate opportunities and intelligence, the better it is. And so if I just go on the platform and do a couple of quick filters, there's a lot of opportunities right now. There's a lot of future infrastructure projects that are being planned. Right? So if you look at just our capital projects dashboard, which essentially goes through every CIP across the US and Canada, every line item, every project in a searchable dashboard. And if I just filter which projects have a start year of 2025 and onwards, there's almost 200,000 such projects, $1.78 trillion in spend from over 20, just under 2,700 CIPs. And then if I go to our intelligence dashboard and I look at our top 20 drinking water indicators over the last 6 months, there is intelligence on over $50 billion worth of infrastructure projects within drinking water across a variety of subsectors within drinking water. If I look at transportation and transit, similar search, I look at our top 20 indicators over the last 6 months. There's over 90 billion, intelligence on over $90 billion worth of future projects that haven't started yet that are 2025 and onwards. So then the question becomes, there's so much data, there's so many projects, and how do we dial down to what is most meaningful and actionable to you as a user, as a customer, or a potential customer? And at least within engineering construction companies, what I've found is there's really probably 3 categories of the type of work that a firm like would be looking for. One would be a plan or a study. You're looking to go in and to develop a plan or do a study or assessment for a city. The second one is doing a design engineering contract for a upcoming project. And the third one could be construction management, or you might be a construction firm and you're taking over, you're managing that whole contracting construction of the project. And obviously a lot of firms do a combination of these. Some will do plans and design, some will do design and construction, but generally 3 different categories, right? So what is the ideal type of data to track to pre-position for these opportunities? And let's say if you're going after plans and studies, what you should be looking for are mentions of budgets allocated or funding requests for studies that are not yet started. They're going to start 1 to 3 years in the future. Filter them for the types of master plans or feasibility studies or assessments that your firm really specializes in. Filter based on if you have geographic focus areas or certain offices that, or certain areas where, you have a stronger presence, a stronger brand, and also filter based on your firm's target or priority clients. If you're doing design engineering, the key thing you'll probably be looking for are mentions of upcoming infrastructure projects where the design has not started yet and it's not starting for at least a year out. So there's a bit of time to go in and pre-position for it. And likely, some cities are going to use their on-call engineer consistently. Some are more likely to change engineers and try different engineers. And so if there is mentions where an incumbent or an on-call engineer is already involved, that might be a tougher one to break into. So you can filter those out. You can filter based on geographic focus areas of your firm. You can filter based on target clients and priority clients. And these things are actually very configurable on the Citylitics platform if you are a customer. And finally, if you're a construction company, the things that you're probably looking at or thinking about is in upcoming infrastructure projects. Construction phase is not started for at least a year, so you have some time. And you might want to prioritize mentions where you have a friendly teaming partner that's involved. And you can see in the data that, so-and-so firm is involved or did the design or is being contracted to do the design. And there might be certain geographic focus areas. There might be certain target clients that you're going after. And those could be different ways that you can filter to get to the most valuable intelligence that you really need. So I'll walk through a few examples of that. And some of you might be familiar with it, but let's say you're looking for planning and studies, just to make it a little bit more tangible. You can see extracts of, hey, here's a city, city of Palm Springs. They're looking to conduct a preliminary engineering analysis and schematic design, and it hasn't started yet. They're looking to start in the next couple of years. Or here's the city of Sherman. They have budgeted $200,000 to develop an intelligent traffic system master plan in 2026. So a year out, there's some time to go in pre-position and contact the city and develop that relationship. Design engineering as an example. So here's a city, and these are extracts that our system pulls directly from the public document that the city publishes, and so we link it to, so our customers and users can go and click on that. But here's an example where the city is looking to do a pump station project, and their design is going to start in 2026, and they've allocated $200,000 for the design, and then they've allocated, over couple million bucks for the construction after that. There's city of Anna's budgeted over $47 million to build an urban divided roadway. And similarly, you can see that the design and engineering isn't starting until 2026 for $2.1 million. So there's an opportunity to go in and build relationships, pre-qualify if needed, and really develop that relationship. And We also provide contact information, so that becomes a quick way to go connect with the right person. And finally, in the construction side, so there's a broadband example where there's a power authority. They've budgeted over $1.8 billion to install and expand fiber optic connections from this year to the next couple years. And similarly, we pull these extracts from their budget documents or planning documents or meeting minutes, and we pull the extract that is most valuable. And another example, which applies more so for construction firms, but oftentimes they want to know when the design engineer is involved, so they can see if they have a relationship with that firm and they can team up with them. And so in this case, you can see an example of a city council meeting agenda where they have authorized to enter into an agreement and contract with CTI engineers for a wastewater treatment plant design. Again, all this information exists. It's in millions and millions of documents every day. It's just no one has the time to go through all that many documents, and that's why we leverage AI and software in order to pull the right intelligence out for each user. And so once you have the data and you have identified certain opportunities to pre-position, what happens next? And I want to share a few slides on, I would say, a few things that I've seen some of our users do exceptionally well. One is that account research, right? So deepening that understanding of what is the city trying to do, right? So you can follow the links, you can read the capital improvement plans, budgets, you can understand what is the city trying to do over the next few years? What are their goals? What are their needs? What are they planning to do? Have they had a master plan or feasibility study? And what kind of direction do they want to go? What past contracts or projects have they had? Which other firms have they worked with in the past? And if you're looking at their public meeting minutes, you can get a sense of what are their priorities, what do they discuss, what seems more urgent, most topical. And then that's at the account level and opportunity level. But then at a contact level and stakeholder level, figure out who are the decision makers, who's going to have the final say in terms of the project or scope or selection. Are there any political or public figures involved? Are there council members involved who might either accelerate the project or stall the project? Are there project level individuals that'll be working more directly on this project who can either shape the direction or they can drive internal buy-in, who can really be champions? So who are all the different players is the next step to figure out. And I think those are a couple of steps that one can take once they've identified an opportunity to pursue. The next one is call planning. And here's a framework to think about. One is opportunity context. So what do we know about the city and their upcoming plans? And funding status. Do they have funding? Do they not have funding? Is it in draft? Is it approved? Where does it live in their priorities? Who are the different stakeholders that we talked about last slide? What are their roles and influence levels? What is the objective with the call? Like, what do we want to learn about that upcoming project? What do we want to offer to the city in terms of showing value or expertise? And then what are the next steps? Are there follow-up materials to send? Are there case studies to send? Are there any other documents that could be really helpful for the city to see? And I would say one of the power of using this data is that it can prevent the aspect of making a lot of check-in calls and using it to make the outreach much more purposeful, much more relevant. So rather than just a very generic check-in, it becomes much more targeted. And it's targeted based on known priorities and projects of the city, right? Because a lot of these cities could be doing a lot of different projects. And so the more you're armed with that information, the more you can target that conversation, and it's more likely to be a much more engaging conversation. And you can ask deeper and better questions. And by mapping out the stakeholders in advance, you can better understand who to speak with, who to align, what are the different things that each person cares about, how to best position for this upcoming project. And a few tips that I would say over the years that we've seen is well summarized to 5. One is getting the right contact would really champion your project or your firm is pretty critical, and that can oftentimes take several months of navigating a city. Speaking to that city or utilities needs and plans and challenges, that's a good way to differentiate, because most of the outreach that they get, and they get tons and tons of reach outs, but most of it is very generic. Most of it is the same template, maybe email or call that they're getting. So anytime they get an outreach from someone who's done their research, who understands the projects, who understands what the city's trying to do. It's just such a better conversation that I think the city just enjoys and engages with at a different level. Communicating your unique value proposition. So how does your solution, your service, your expertise best fit to their plans and what we're trying to do? Referencing past case studies. So I see that used a lot too, where if they have a certain need and certain project, and you can show them, we've done these types of projects before. This is the customer, and this is the benefit that we gave them. That just makes it more likely for that new city to be more interested. And having a clear call to action. So what is the next step? Is it a lunch and learn? Is it a webinar? Is it a site visit? Is it an on-site presentation? So those are some that I'd share with you are some of the things to keep in mind as you're engaging with cities and utilities before the RFP. And then I think the other thing that data allows one to do is a much more data-driven approach to go no-go pursuit evaluation, right? So I'd say a lot of our customers, these are some of the typical criteria they're looking at, right? So timing, is there a window of time to influence? Do we have 1 to 3 years to influence them? Or is this project fully scoped, it's imminent, and we have not been involved? Stakeholder access, do we have relationships, or can we build them? Do we have enough time to build them? Or do we not have access to these, or do we not know the decision makers and we don't have an easy way to get to them? Strategic fit as well. So is this project or opportunity or city, does it align with the firm's core strengths, the market, the geographic focus, the expertise? Are we pre-qualified? Do we have time to pre-qualify? Or are we misaligned, or what they're doing is not the strongest fit for our business? Teaming potential. So are there a lot of these infrastructure projects, there's many organizations involved in getting a successful project done. And are there strong teaming options that are known early that you can collaborate with to get involved in this project, or are there no clear partners? And finally, relationship history. So do you have a positive working relationship or project history with them, which can prioritize an opportunity? Or was there a challenging history or a tough project in the past, or are there strong incumbents that the city's going to keep going back to? That makes it less likely to be an opportunity. So it's a bit of a framework to look at it this way. And then the final slide that I'll make is just talking a little bit about, one of the most common things that I hear from seller doers is just the prioritization aspect of it, because there's delivery work to do, then there's RFP response, and there's a proactive BD to do. And one way to look at it is if you have a 2x2 matrix and you think about on one axis, it's how strong of a strategic fit is this opportunity. And the second axis is how much time is available before this opportunity becomes a project. So if it is a strong fit where, pre-qualified, have the relationships or can get the relationships and aligns very well with your expertise and the types of projects you guys are pursuing, that obviously becomes a pretty high either RFP response if it's the RFP stage, or early engagement or early BD work if it's if it's earlier. And then if it's the bottom left is probably the more, maybe they call it contentious one, which is there's coming a lot of opportunities that come your way, and they're at the RFP stage. They might not be the best strategic fit. And but there's always this pressure to respond to the RFP because it might be a project or opportunity, but the win rate is lower. And this is where an area to think about, where is an opportunity to reallocate bandwidth or opportunity to disqualify some of them. I've heard some customers that have said to me that they cut their RFP responses by half and they still double their business because the ones that they went after were just much better fit. But it's all obviously very challenging to do. It's a big culture shift, but mathematically, I think there's an opportunity there where if there's a low win rate, low strategic fit, the BD bandwidth that can be saved by taking it out from that bucket and putting it somewhere else can potentially pay back in a big way. And then finally, if there are opportunities where you became aware of it early, but it's not as strong strategic fit, maybe there's still opportunity to influence that opportunity. So that I flag as a lower priority or early engagement. I do see 3 questions. So one question I see is, what CRM systems do you integrate? So we integrate with most CRM systems. So Salesforce, there's HubSpot, there's Dynamics and whatnot. There's some more that we're we're building towards, but I'd say most CRMs we integrate with or we have a solution to integrate with. The second question I see here is how often does your platform update with new opportunities? That's near daily. So we are constantly ingesting data. Our system is constantly reviewing these websites. It takes us about a month to get through all 40,000 cities utilities, but on a near daily basis, there's new data being populated for all of our customers. The third question that I see here says, can I search for opportunities solely based on the firms already involved? And on that one, I'll say is there is a way, but we are working on easier ways to do that. So we have a new product that we're called extension of our product that we're working on. We call it consultant feeds. The idea being that currently, when you go on our platform, you're searching by cities, utilities, and if there's a mention of an engineering firm, you'll see that on your feed. But one of the things we're looking at, one of the things we get asked a lot is, well, I'm more interested in targeting that engineer first, because if I'm a construction firm, I want to know who the engineer is first before I reach out. Or if I'm a manufacturer or supplier, I want to know who the engineer is. And so we're working on another feed that specializes in tracking and takes all the mentions that we have for that firm and puts it in a easy to consume feed. So we are working on it actively, and we are rolling it out to a few of our customers in the next couple months, and then more broadly after that. But that is something on our radar and get asked a lot. And the other question that I see is, what if I'm trying to decide whether or not to expand into a new area? And so I would say you could leverage our dashboards because you can filter. I'll go back to that slide. So, we have these dashboards. They're set up based on your indicators and markets that you have subscribed to. You're able to use that to just get a sense of where the volume of opportunities is. But you have something more specific that you can also reach out to our customer success team. But I'd say our capital projects dashboard is one that a lot of our customers use to decide geographic expansion, because now they can see how many projects are in CIPs of a certain type or a certain keyword mention, and what is the total dollar amount by county, by city. And that type of analytics helps them, decide where to grow. So I think that was the end of all the questions that were posted just now. Good. Well, that covers it in terms of the slides that I had. If there's any other questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat. Otherwise, I have my email here too. So if you ever have a question or if you have a follow-up question about anything I covered today, I'm happy to respond and share and help in whatever way I can. Good. All right. Well, thank you all for joining today's webinar. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and I will start closing out this webinar. You might get a survey. Appreciate any feedback you have. We're always looking for topics that we can create for our customers. That would be helpful. So please take a second to fill out that survey. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.